Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you so very much for that beautiful music. We so appreciate you, Gilbert. We so appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great rising, everyone.
Great rising.
Thank you. How's everyone this beautiful, beautiful day?
Fantastic.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are Miracle Center for Spiritual Living, located here at 2653 South Taylor Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. I am Linda Jones, your pulpit assistant. The God in me salutes the God in you. Welcome, one and all. Let us prepare for our invocation. Let's become quiet and still and go within. This is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Divine Spirit, with whom we are one, we invoke your presence in today's service. For we know that we recognize that divine indwelling presence that's within each and every one of us. That divine light that radiates outward with love toward all humanity. We give praises to the Most High that is within us. And as we hear today's message, we receive it with open minds and open hearts. For we are receivers of divine wisdom, knowledge, and truth. And we know today's message will be a blessing to our spirit. It will inspire us, uplift us, and empower us. So I just bless and give thanks for everyone present here in the sanctuary, on Zoom, and on the phone. I bless and give thanks for all the participants in today's service. Our minister, Reverend June, the musicians, our practitioners, computer tech, ushers, and the ladies who prepare our refreshments so lovingly. So I now decree this service to be in divine order. And if you are in agreement with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you. A new month. A beautiful new month that we are so blessed to see. August 4th, 2024. Order of service, our monthly theme, unstatus quo. Our weekly topic title, the impact of othering. It's interesting. The impact of othering. This week, we began discussing taboo topics often avoided in spiritual communities. Join us on a transformative journey of self-discovery, collective growth, and creating a society rooted in love, justice, and celebrating our shared humanity. Our affirmation, I act to create an inclusive world. I act to create an inclusive world. Now let's say that together, please, out loud. I act to create an inclusive world. And now we'll have some music. Be still and know. That's all we have to do, just be still and know. Our monthly theme summary. We have come to expect a status quo in our spiritual community. We tend to know what to wear, who we will see, what the topics will be, when the music and treatment will happen, everything. When we only operate in the status quo, we miss so much of the beauty and growth that happens when we move outside of our normal and step into the beyond. Here lies a rich community with various topics, ideas, and things that we often stuff down because it would be inappropriate. We forget that when we have these taboo topics in a spiritual community, we isolate those for whom these topics are at the forefront of their lives. 6, marginalization, trauma, abuse, disabilities, ableism, addiction, shame, chronic illness, mental health, consent, racism, poverty, food insecurity, and politics. We are all impacted by one or more of these human experiences. We all deserve to have a grand rising. So we must be willing to embrace the wholeness of humanity, including those things we would rather ignore, especially in the spiritual community. Oneness equals wholeness, and therefore, no topic is taboo. Summary of today's topic. Spiritual communities have a unique opportunity to be radically inclusive and welcoming. Instead, we see people who look, act, and think similar to us when we look around. This week, we are beginning to dissect this phenomenon with the concept of othering. If we truly believe in oneness, we must begin to include those ideas and topics that have historically been excluded. By openly discussing these unstatus quo topics, excuse me, we sincerely invite those directly impacted to join us. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, poverty, incarceration, homelessness, mental illness, neurodiversity, politics, disability, fat shaming, food insecurity, and more encompass authentic human experiences. I'm sorry, please bear with me. Excuse me. Okay, where was I? Okay, I'll start up here. By openly discussing these unstatus quo topics, we sincerely invite those directly impacted to join us. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, poverty, incarceration, homelessness, mental illness, neurodiversity, politics, disability, fat shaming, food insecurity, and more encompass authentic human experiences, warranting inclusion at the table. Applying science of mind principles, we aim to uplift and support every individual in their grand rising. Science of mind point of view. Ernest Holmes reminds us that in mind there is no time, no space, no place. Only wholeness. Science of mind point of view. Ernest Holmes reminds us that in mind There is no time, no space, no place. There is only wholeness, oneness, and eternity. And this is from A New Design for Living, page 194.3. Because of our fundamental belief in the oneness of all, the science of mind naturally challenges human tendencies toward other individuals or groups. It encourages a shift in perception toward recognizing all people inherent unity and equality, inviting us to approach others with compassion, empathy, and respect. Moreover, the concept of timelessness and eternity within the one mind highlights that our connections and relationships extend beyond the limitations of temporal existence. From this perspective, othering becomes even more incongruous since it denies the underlying spiritual interconnectedness that transcends the boundaries of individual identities. Essentially, we are invited to transcend the illusory boundaries that separate us. Rather, we are encouraged to perceive the underlying oneness, harmony, and the eternity within the mind's realm, ultimately dissolving the division notion of othering. And so it is. And now Reverend June will bring us our message. Let's welcome her.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are we?
Fantastic.
Got two, fantastic and great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to see you. It's a perfect morning this morning. One of those, it's not that you want to stay in bed, it's that you want to get up out of bed and go somewhere. And thank God we decided to come here to share this wonderful day and this new month. January, February, March, April, May, June, 8 months, 7 months.
Eight.
I prefer 7. That means the world is not turning so fast. So, as we come into our 8th month, this theme for this month, did you find it interesting?
Yes.
I see some heads. I heard a couple yeses. Did you find it a little unsettling?
Yes.
Yes. Good. That somebody else is in the same bucket with me. I honestly don't like the un. I don't like the UN. I'm trying to think of something that I like the UN in front of. Now there's another short, precursor, I'm trying to think of the right word, that it goes on many words, and one of them is 3 words in our Science of Mind vocabulary: omnipresent, omniscient, O-M-I, omni. And then there's un, which means opposite of. So all this week, I've been wrestling with, how do I say, what do I say about opposite of? And I've decided that I just don't believe it. It doesn't sit well with me. If there is anything I do believe, if there is anything in this teaching that doesn't fit into your heartness, doesn't fit into your willingness to just accept as your truth, those are the things that we really have to look at within the teaching, which is written by someone else and has been influenced by many, many people, then we have to take all of those ideas, at least for me, it's just personal for me, I guess, actually everything is, you just take that and you look at it harder than things that are very, very easy to believe. For example, earlier this morning when I got up, I took the blind just a little bit and I looked outside and I knew it had been raining because the sidewalks were darker brown and the clouds were there, kind of, sort of, but it was a little dim and it had been raining. I could say to myself, according to what I see before my eyes out of my window, yes, it looks like it has rained. So my premise and my conclusion come together very easily. Now, it could be, you could say, someone was out with a really long hose and they wet the sidewalk as far as I could see that way, as far as I could see that way, and I still might come to the conclusion, oh, it rained, until I go to a different window and look to this way, and it gets to a point where, well, it looks dry down there, and then I go to the other way, and it doesn't appear that it's wet. So what do I do with that conclusion? Have one end over here dry, one end over here dry, and in the middle, it looks like it has rained. Can I still agree with what I see that it's rained? Uh-oh. I got to stop and think. I got to do a little investigation here. I think those conclusions that we arrive at are what we know in our mind. We have seen it before. We recognize it as wet sidewalk, wet street within our vision, and we say, it must have rained last night. Now, when Linda read the monthly theme, the summary, and the Science of Mind point of view, I'm not exactly where it is in here. Okay, here's it's in summary of today's topic, like third or fourth sentence down here. I think this is the one. By openly discussing these unstatus quo topics, we sincerely invite those directly impacted to join us. Just because we think something is true, the only way it is true is through your own prism. It cannot be true for someone else unless they believe their own prism, and their prism, what they see, matches what you see. That is why all these things she has listed here, racism, homophilia, see, I can't even say the word. Homophobia, thank you. Is that you, Charles? Thank you, bless you. I couldn't get this, I get it straight in my head. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, poverty, incarceration, homelessness, mental illness, neurodiversity, politics, disability, fat shaming, food insecurity, and more encompass authentic human experiences, warranting inclusion to the table. Warranting inclusion to the table, meaning that you're not welcome in any of those categories or beliefs, and actually, none of those ought to be even a word. None of those, I would bet my neck, as the expression used to be, I would bet my neck that if you are, say, in a class that explores the English language, think about how many of these words would even be words in Webster's dictionary, let's say 500 years ago. Let's say, even bring it down a bit, was mental illness recognized quite some time back? I say no. Homophilia, was it recognized? Was it around, but was it labeled? I say no. Poverty, that's one for the ages. We haven't moved very far. We're still recognizing poverty. Politics. Heavens to Betsy. Has politics been around for a very, very long time?
Yes.
Yes, it has. And if you think about each one individually, each of these words, how have they been interwoven together to become acceptable to have disdain for, or acceptable to accept? So my approach to even trying to figure out what I think about the theme for the month, because does it matter what I think? Because someone else wrote it, some other minister wrote it, and the people that produced the magazine and those folks in Science of Mind who are our leaders, they accepted this as a title. Does that mean that I have to accept it as a title, or that you have to accept it as a title, or that I have to understand it clearly enough in myself to come and talk about it today? It does and it doesn't. It does. That's the conclusion I came to for myself in order to feel comfortable about the way that I chose or have chosen to bring us to at least some considerations in our own lives about what the unsystem as we have today in our world. Unstatus quo. I think most of us have heard of quid pro quo. You give it out, what you give out, you get back. Those kinds of thoughts and patterns. Unstatus, othering. Othering. Wow. That's a new one on me. Anybody else ever heard of othering? I don't know. Othering. I've heard of smothering your kids. I mean, not literally with a pillow on their head or their face, but just, you're too tight, Mom. You're too tight. Back off. This is new. Am I smothering if I'm taking this wisdom that has been part of my path? Am I smothering when I say, think about what you're doing, because later in life you're going to see that it doesn't really mean anything? Is that smothering? Or is that telling the truth the way I see it. So when they say, when this unstatus othering, I guess maybe I'm showing my age a little bit, that there's, what's the millennials and what's the other group? And they said it this morning on the TV.
Z, Gen Z. Gen Z.
Which ones?
Gen Z.
Gen Z. What are you, Chris? Do you know?
I think I'm technically Gen Z.
You think you're Gen Z? I betcha. You're an awfully special one because you are a wonderful person. What about the other category? There's wonderful people in that category. What about our category? Don't we think, and I'm talking about anybody that's over 25, you over 25, Chris? Not yet. Okay, so you can stay in your generation. Anybody in our generation, don't you think that we are special and that we know an awful lot about life?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that every category, youth, babies know more about how to get fed, I think, than anybody. And it's so easy. Just open your mouth and squall. And not just being fed, but somebody's going to rush over and take care of your implied or your unknown, your better known processes. They're not understanding what I want. I want my diaper changed. And I want it changed with grace and ease. And I want to be wiped. And I want to be powdered. And I want new pants put on me. They are very clear. Sometimes I kind of wish I could go back to infancy so that all I had to do was squall and somebody would come and take care of all my needs and all my wants, at least what I think they are. So moving into, as I work through this, I'm going to very quickly read these. It's in your bulletin. What is othering? At the heart, othering is rooted in fear, that we know about, of the unknown, fear of being wrong, fear of being out of control, and fear of those different from us. 2024. Should we perhaps be beyond these kinds of words being our common theme in our politics, in our treatment of one another? 2024. That kind of othering, I think, needs to be put in the trash can, burned up one by one. However, we need to get rid of it. Impact of othering. It causes us to question our control or lack thereof, or uncontrolling. So you put an un in front of that. Out of control. Uncontrollable. Got to look at them, see what they really mean. And the possibility of something happening that we don't want or like. At the heart of othering is rooted in fear, fear of the unknown, fear of being wrong, fear of being out of control, and fear of those different from us. That is a very, very, very negative outlook on your own life and on others' lives. Not just the United States, if you're an American citizen, whatever. If you watched any of the Olympics, we had some of both. We had winners and we had people that did not win, I'll put it that way. We had people that accepted their winning, but after it was reviewed, it was taken away. We had people who lost or did not win, I'll put it that way, because there's no such thing as lost. If you participated, you were successful in doing something. But if there were losses, You saw it on the face of some who didn't come up to what they had expected, and that's okay. Are you supposed to grin and jump up and down? And I'm so happy that I didn't quite make it to the gold medal. I didn't even make a medal. I didn't even make it to that level. It's the participation in life. As I watched, I felt, I'm going off on things I hadn't even thought about. The media, as it is called, especially for us, that's about all I know, is the hype and the pressure and showing where this one came from, and they came from this kind of house, and they didn't do this, and maybe their parents were all that. I want to say a bad word. They were there. They qualified from many, many, many trials. They qualified to be there. I can't think of any of them I could do. I couldn't qualify for squat. So why do we put such pressure on ourselves, the othering that comes through something as grand and glorious and welcoming as healthy, beautiful, trained young people willing to not fear, willing to go out there in front of God and everybody, because with television now, everybody all over the world sees you if you succeed, and they see you if you place, as it is wonderful to place, and they're not there to comfort you unless you get 1, 2, or 3. And I thought a lot about that, and how many of those young people, even our acclaimed gymnasts, realized a couple years ago, this is not working. This is not working for me. A little star, I call her little because she's small, star in the universe. Then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go any further. And here comes the media. For 2 years, maybe 3, she took care of her health, not just physically, but most importantly, mentally. Took care of her mental health by stepping aside. Another person that comes to mind is the leader of this country. Did a job for, 45, 50 years at a certain level in a certain category in this country, and became higher up in this country. And then at some point, the media stepped in. You should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't do that, you should, you ought to, you really ought to really think about it. Like the man wasn't thinking about it, what he was going to do for himself, for his country. Made a decision. So we're not in the Olympics that I know of. We're not leaders of a country, which I know of, but we're leaders of ourselves. So we don't need othering, and we don't need to other. Sometime I talk with my sister, Reverend Leora. Some of you know her, some of you don't. And we do sister-to-sister chat about my niece and nephew and my young men and my daughter. We've been othering. And I don't know why they said that. I don't know why they don't do that. We're othering. They obviously are not in our category of age. They're not in Chris's category of age, but they're in somewhere in between all of that, and they have children that they do the othering for, which I'm sure their other younger ones, they probably don't like the othering either. And I like the word because it I kind of sort of like it because it sounds like mothering. And it sounds like smothering. You know, smothering is good when it's gravy on pork chops. It makes them tender. So now I'm wandering, so I get back. But, you know, sometimes reading these things out loud and not looking at books and trying to figure out what am I going to say, what's in this book that's going to help me to relay this message, for all of us to stop and think about how our lives are going, how are we accepting these premises that are given to us from science of mind. And if you go to the Bible, and if you go to Greek philosophy, and you go to Buddhism, and you go to Zionism and Judaism, and any other faithful writings and thought patterns, they're all going to be doing othering. Some of them not as attacking of other otherings. Some faiths don't want you to do this, do that with others that are not of their faith. You know, there's a lot of othering going on. Some people don't want to be with that race of people. Some people don't want to be with those people that choose to live their life in a different way. Or some people that feel that they were born a certain way and they choose to become who they feel is their truth. But there's a heck of a lot of othering going on. And these words, fear, I don't see love in any of this dialogue here. I do not see love. How can you love an other at the same time? How can you accept the fact that there is only one thing, one entity, one experience, one philosophy that is going on through your head, through your heart, and through everything that you do every single moment of the day? If you're breathing, you don't expect somebody else to come along and say, I'll take over for you for a while. Just hold your breath. I don't want anybody othering for me. And they aren't, because we're individualized expressions of God. And we are love, and we are trust, and we are unfearing. If you want to put an un somewhere, put it in front of fear. Put it in front of hating. We're unhating. Use that little that's the word I was looking for before, prefix, un, not, nada. Go to whatever you want to do, call it. Get your mind out of the sand of thinking negatively about the simplest things that go on in our lives. Because that three-letter word, O-N-E, is all there is. And there's a commercial on that I just love. And my second son, Michael, he said, oh, Mom, I remember you used to just play that all the time. And that's Neil Diamond. And there's a commercial that says, I am. And the song is beautiful. And every time I hear it, I say, oh, I wish more people had the excitement about that song that I do. Because I have loved his music forever, that I was into music. I am, I said. So if you want to stop doing the thing, do the I am thing. I am peace. I am glory. I am prosperous. I am healthy. I am love. I am joy. I'm not homophobic. No, I'm not against fat people. No, you hear the difference in the voice? No. And yes, I am. I am that I am. I do get up on Sunday morning and I go to church. Not because my mother dressed me and you better be ready on time to go and get to walk and to get up to St. Mary's or get to walk and get up to St. Anne's. That was my youth. That was my choice that my parents had. So whatever was back when you were dressed, not dressed physically, but maybe you were, but when you were able to pick out your own clothes or given the clothes you wanted to wear or put Vaseline on your little patent leather shoes or white, what was the white? Griffins, white, shake it up, get a little Q-tip. If you got on white Bucks or if you got on white tennis shoes, sneakers, that your parents, your mom usually, you got to make sure your shoes are white. You got to make sure that your shoes are shiny. Get that foot brush out, my father would say if he had a boy, and dip it in that polish and make sure your shoes are shining. Make sure your pants aren't wrinkled. Make sure your blouse isn't wrinkled. And then your hair, oh goodness. Be ready to go to where there is no unwords. Be ready to go to church. And you better be ready. Because in my house, you didn't get in the car. You got out the door no matter what the weather was, and you got to step into church. And you better behave while you're there. There's so much more to, I guess, today's UN letter words. There's so much more to the ungrateful. Well, isn't it a group? I'm not sure. But there's so much more to life. You smile a bit more. You take care of your finances. You take care of your health. If you are a person who is not caught up in the UN, some words that kind of sort of fits. I'm uncomfortable. I think that's a good word. Uncomfortable. How about just taking the UN off? I'm comfortable. It's a choice. I'm sitting here. I'm listening to her talk, me, and I'm uncomfortable about what she's saying. Then kick whatever I'm saying out your head and think of something that makes you feel comfortable. Don't expect that everything you see, everything you hear, everything you do, and here we come to the tricky part, is going to be perfect. Because, according to this month's theme, is unstatus quo, the impact of othering. I'm not going to give you an answer because I have just started working with this transformative unness. I wouldn't even look at next week's subject because I was having such a hard time trying to figure out this week's subject. Why do I go to the next week? Think about what brings you joy. Think about what brings you peace. Think about all the mothering that we can do for ourselves, all the mothering that we can do for others, and allow them to also perceive what's good for them, what works for them, and we're working on recipes for Juliet's cookbook. I call it Juliet's cookbook, for our cookbook. And if you have a recipe, there's some of us that are going to go over all the recipes and make sure they make sense. Now, if something we were reading or looking at the other day, and someone had typed it out and looked, and it said C, a C of, we'll say, pepper, a C of pepper, the number one and a little letter C. And then it dawned on the person that had typed it, after they read it, the original, it said C meant can. Yeah, I heard one snicker. Think about the difference if you put that recipe out there and it said 1 can of pepper. I knew I'd get it from somebody. See, you get the rationale. It isn't always, I'll put it that way, it isn't always what you think. It isn't always what is obvious to your mind. Now, there might be a time you might put a whole can of pepper, white pepper, black pepper, red pepper, green pepper, in something, but I don't want to taste it because I don't think there's enough of anything to calm it down that would compare it to a cup or a teaspoon or a tablespoon. It's the same thing with the teaspoon or the tablespoon, a big T or a small T. So this is the way I believe that we have to look at unstatus quo. And actually, if my life was status quo, I probably would not be a happy person. In fact, I'm sure I would not be a happy person. I don't want what happened 5 years ago to happen again. I don't want what happened yesterday to happen again. I don't want to be the same. I want to grow. I want to move forward. So none of the stuff that I've talked about is on this bulletin. It's not in this book, except that I will give you the pages that I read that helped me. If you have a book and you want to write them down, page 358, first paragraph, page 359, the fifth paragraph, page 360, all of it, the whole page, page 361, the fourth paragraph, page 362, the first paragraph. So I guess what I want to be clear about is the path that we're on of this new, just the newness of what the Olympics have brought since the last, I don't know how many I've watched, but there's new rules, and there's new ways of dressing. There's new way of swimming. They're saying that someone swam better in this one than the other ones because the pool had more water in it. You know, if I got in that pool and I tried to do what they do, I don't care how low or how high that water is, I would find some way to drown. Because I don't know, I can, do one of these numbers. I don't know the method. I don't understand the premise. But I do understand water, and I do understand myself. So in looking at people who know how to do the things they were doing, and I listened to the commentary of how they were in the hospital, like in 2022, and now it's 2024, and they've lost the 25 pounds they gained when they were sick, and they compete, and they get the silver and instead of the gold. Is that really beneficial? I say yes. I say yes about anything that pushes you to not the knowing, nor the unknowing, It's wonderful not to know what you know. Because if you go around acting like you know everything, and you don't ever try something new, and you don't ever stop and say, God, I know you're there, but I just can't hear you. I just can't feel you. Do something different. Call a practitioner. Open the Science of Mind magazine. Wonderful writings from ordinary people who have become ministers that write about their experience. Call a number that's on a hotline. Call a Buddhist person. Call a Jewish person. Incorporate all the essences of truth that you can think of. And listen, and then think. Use the old Nagun. Think, and you will know. And as Neil Diamond says, I am, I said. I am that I am. And as we go through this othering phase, this othering focus for this particular month, do something with it. I've moved from, well, who thought of that? Judgment on my part. Who thought of that? To recognize I need to find out more about what it means to me. So at that point, I'm going to take all my notes, and I'm going to close the book, and I'm going to have Laverne come up, and I hope you got some thinking matter to do and move through.
Thank you, Reverend June. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Conclusion and call to action. In our spiritual communities, we express oneness, radical welcoming, and inclusion ideas. However, we often allow our unconscious bias inclination toward othering. To overcome this inherent human tendency, we must go beyond mere spiritual practice and take proactive steps towards self-reflection and community examination. We must explore what lies beneath our resistance to personal growth, communal change, and natural evolution. Achieving oneness goes beyond individual efforts. It necessitates collective engagement. As spiritual beings, we are called to shed light on all aspects of our human experience, especially the ones we may prefer to avoid. By doing so, we transcend othering and create an environment of inclusivity where everyone feels welcome. To accomplish this, we must be willing to examine ourselves, our beliefs, and our community honestly. We must identify and challenge our unconscious biases and fears that hinder our progress toward true oneness, opening the door to personal and collective transformation and allowing us to embody the principles we espouse. Transcending othering requires more than just theatrical discussions of science of mind principles. It demands a commitment to action, self-reflection, and collective introspection. And so it is.
It's all we have is the now. And who we are is God expressing itself in the multiplicity of this world, in everything we think, say, or do. It is God in action. It is perfect. There cannot be anything that is not perfect, because everything that is, everything we do, everything we know, everything we don't yet know, is of God. So when we think of imperfect or unperfect, it's just to kind of give us a little bit of a push. If this appears to be imperfect or unperfect or any of the new terminology that seems to be brought into our lexicon, it's not the truth as truth truly is. And truth matters. And what matters is the perfection of God is all there is. As the song that I love and I listen to and I can hear it, I am, I said. I am. This is Christ. And the words that I found on these pages that I gave to you are finding the Christ. Finding the Christ. Where is it? The Christ is me. The Christ is within me. The Christ enacts as me. The Christ speaks as me. I listen as the Christ. I know as the Christ. I welcome health. I welcome peace. I welcome all the essences of good and harmony and joy and love and welcome and welcome and welcome and welcome. I take in love and harmony and joy and all that is good. I breathe out. I speak out. I see out of my eyes. I take in what I hear. I know who I am. I am the I am. And as we speak these words of God, we recognize who I am within each and every individual on this planet is the I am. And accepting this as the truth is the perfection of who and what I am. This universal allness. And I give thanks for the awareness within myself, for the awareness within you, the acceptance of the consciousness of God within you as you interact, as you react, as you act, period. I am, you are, we are. And we are a divine expression of God, and we give thanks for this because it is so. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. So Linda's going to come back, and Artist is going to take collection. And I don't see any new guests today, so welcome everybody. And,
Let's give Reverend June a hand for that very informative message. Thank you, everyone. And now let us prepare for our benediction. We close our eyes and go within. Take a couple of deep breaths. Father, Mother God, I give thanks for today's service, today's message, and our messenger, Reverend June Clark. We know that this message has truly been a blessing to us all. Gave us a lot to think about and ponder on, about othering. We know this message has uplifted us, informed us, and inspired us to go forth and to act to create an inclusive world. And if you are in agreement with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you very much. Our announcements. Practitioners are available for personal prayer and assistance after service on Sunday mornings. Prayer request forms are on the backs of the chairs in the sanctuary. You may also email your requests to fran10_10@att.net. And all of your prayer requests are 100% confidential. Reprogram yourself on God's financial system. God is our system of prosperity. With God's wisdom for your finances, no matter which way the economic system turns in this world, you will never have to worry about it. God tells us what is coming on the earth and how to adjust ourselves so that we will go through it as if nothing happened. There are no shortages with God. God has plenty. He has a full supply, and He is our source. This is submitted by Reverend June, and so it is. Let's also remember our members and friends that stand in need of prayer. Let's hold them up in our highest thoughts and prayers. And I believe, Julie, is this the last day for the recipes to be submitted to you?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have any recipes, please submit them to Juliet for our fundraiser cookbook that's designed to help our mortgage fund. And now, if you'll please, this concludes our service. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And if you'll please gather up for the peace song. Yes, Ernie?
Special guest.
A special guest?
You want to acknowledge the guest that come in?
Oh, where is she? I didn't.
He's okay. You forgot.
Oh, okay, welcome. God bless you. Thank you for coming. Okay. And now we will stand for our peace song.